This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 47.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jeff Pellizzaro, host of the 18 Strong Podcast, and I want to thank you for showing up. Listen to us on your earbuds, wherever you are, in your car, on the driving range, maybe on a jog somewhere, working out in the gym. I appreciate you showing up to the podcast and listening in. We've got a great show today. I've got Jim Ferris from Jim Ferris Training, and Jim has worked with athletes of all levels, some at the highest of levels, especially on the basketball court. Has worked with NFL players, and so today's episode is not so much golf specific. But Jim and I, we just kind of talk about a lot of different things that I think most of you guys will really enjoy. We talk about beer. We talk about alcohol. We talk about getting shredded, which is an affectionate term in the gym for really leaning out and looking good, and training for that, and just some different things. And what are some of the problems that are going on in regards to information on different things that are out there: training, diet, nutrition, exercise. There's so much information that we can all kind of get roped into. We can read one article one day, another article another day, and they can be completely conflicting. So Jim helps us kind of decipher, what are some of the tips or strategies that we can use to really get to the bottom line or figure out what is the best information for us. So we've got a lot of great info, a lot of great content in here. And speaking of stuff that guys love, we've got a free little gift for you over on 18strong.com on gaining a few extra yards off of the tee box, increasing your swing speed. It's called 5 yards in less than 5 minutes. Head over there, pop in your email address. You'll be sent an email right away with your free ebook. And like I said before in previous podcasts, there's going to be some videos that will be added to that with the drills and everything for increasing your swing speed. So head over and get that. And then I wanted to make one last quick mention of something that I have going on. As I've mentioned before, the book, The Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout, is through the editing process, and I wanted to get a little bit of feedback from a few listeners. I've got some people on a list that are ready to receive a free copy of the guide, basically before it goes to print or before it gets published. I wanted to have a few readers and listeners read through it, give me some feedback so I can make it as good as possible before it hits the airwaves and the computers and everything. So if you're interested in reading a copy of the Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout before anybody else sees it, just shoot me an email at jeff@18strong.com. I've got a couple more spots available for people that want to maybe get a sneak peek at the book and then really kind of help be a part of the writing process and putting it together and making it as great of a resource as possible for you guys. So if you're interested in that, again, send me an email at jeff@18strong.com, and maybe as the subject line, just put Bogey-Proof Book, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about, and send me a little message. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this episode with Jim, and I will catch you on the other side. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. I've got a special guest, Jim Ferris, with us. Jim, thanks for coming on the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me tonight.
You bet. Jim is a trainer based in Philadelphia that has worked with basically athletes of all levels, all sports, has worked with some of the top athletes in the world, really. He's a presenter, educator. Jim, I'm going to let you give a little bit more background on you, your training methods, and just kind of what got you into the world of training and fitness and what you're doing these days.
Okay, that's great. I think I'm one of those lucky ones. I kind of picked this at the age of 17 for my undergrad, and I actually stuck to my undergrad, and I found some success with it over the years. So I started at a private sports training company around 2001, and I got my foot in the door because I just got to work with a lot of high-level athletes right away. So my internship led to a good part-time job, and I kind of just got thrown into the fire a little bit. I'll probably even admit it, probably a little ahead of where I should have been in terms of experience, but I think that experience is kind of why I am where I am today in the field. So I got to touch with based with a lot of NBA players, NHL players, NFL guys. I'll never say I trained, but I got to work with Bernard Hopkins. I got to work for a week with Charlie Ward. So, right there, you got a middleweight fighter. You got a Heisman Trophy winner that played in the NBA as well. So I kind of just got some cool experiences early on, and I think that's what helped develop my way and philosophy of kind of how I do business and how I train, everybody from, doesn't matter what level you are. It's just kind of how I see things in the big picture.
Yeah, exactly. I follow a lot of your stuff online on Facebook, and for the listeners out there, Jim is awesome to follow on Facebook because he's, first of all, you've got a lot of great posts. You post very frequently, but some are about training, some are just about life, and just some good entertaining stuff as well. So I highly recommend following Jim, especially on Facebook. But I watch some of the philosophies and some of the stuff that you post, and it talks a lot about how whether it's a high level athlete or it's Joe Blow from down the street, everybody gets the same style of treatment as far as quality-wise. Everybody's an athlete. Everybody's looking to progress, improve, and so the level of detail from one person to the other, it sounds like, is a big sticking point for you and something that you really, really promote when you're working with your clients.
Yeah, I look at everybody the same way. Day one, no matter what, the evaluation, the test, the discussions that we have, it's all based off of who they are, where they came from, what's their goals, what are we going to do to accomplish those goals, what amount of time do we have to do it, and obviously the commitment level on the person involved plays a part in that, but it really doesn't change my view of how I'm going to approach the situation. It's just I collect the information, I collect the data, and this is what we have to work with, this is what we want to get to, and we find the necessary route to get there. So, it could be different for some people. That necessary route might be they work 9 to 5, so they have 2 days a week to train. How do you make that optimal? Or you have a pro athlete and they got 12 weeks and they can come 5 days a week. Obviously, you can create a little different scenario with that. But, it's really, how can we make it optimal for the person? And, like I said, it's kind of become my phrase is do what's necessary to get the job done.
Yeah, everybody's got their different schedules. Everybody has their different jobs, agendas. And so it's not like, Joe's going to get the same treatment that Steve Nash gets or something like that because he's not there as often. He doesn't have the time to put in the resources possibly. So, putting together that plan and working with that person to figure out, okay, how many days a week can you come in? What's your diet going to look like? Are you traveling or are you not? And it's those details that I see in the posts that you make and the communication that you have with some of the people that are interacting with you online that I think is very cool. Really kind of fitting into their lifestyle, but yet at the same time treating them with that same quality. And I think every individual that we come across in our profession, especially all the people that are listening to the show, they have their own goals. They're in their mind, they're the most important person in the world, and that's how they should be treated. And something that you and I were kind of conversing about in regards to fitness and health and everything is, we're all looking to better ourselves, and people are online, hopefully coming to the 18 Strong podcast to get information. But everybody's reading different things, and there's so much information out there on fitness, diet, nutrition, strength training. You and I were talking about how does someone decipher what's good, what's bad. We see different arguments and topics debated online. What do you tell somebody when they come up and they're like, oh, well, I read this and they're conflicting views? Where do you steer them?
Usually I get to the point, you can't just read one post. You can't just read one article. You need to read 10 articles. You need to read an article that's pro. You need to read an article that's con. And you just have to see it from different views of people. Like I said, you could go online and it's going to say water's good for you, and then it's going to say water's bad. Squats are good, squats are bad. And the problem is people, I think they look at certain people as the professional, and whether it's right or wrong, or I agree with that person or not, it's, people drink the Kool-Aid a little bit sometimes, I think, too quick of somebody on social media, and it just creates that confusion. And is it the reader's fault? Probably, because it's their job, I think, to probably do some research a little bit before they just read something and say that's the truth. This is what you do.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff out there that is instant gratification. And so we read one article and we're on the bandwagon. And, like you said, maybe squats are good or squats are bad, one of the two. And then all of a sudden, the next day somebody posts a different article and it says the exact opposite. And there's good reasoning in that article and it's a trusted individual. And it's like, oh, well, wait, maybe this guy's right. And then you jump on that bandwagon. And I think it does come down to a lot of the fact that you've got to do your due diligence, whether you're a busy guy who's working 60 hours a week, but you're going to jump on the bandwagon of squatting or not squatting. You got to do a little bit of research on your own and kind of read, like you said, both sides. Do you have any trusted resources that you tend to go to look at or kind of check facts at all, or anything, any individuals or other resources you might recommend to people out there?
I am still a member of strengthcoach.com. That was probably one of the first memberships I got on board with. I enjoyed the forums. I enjoyed the education. I enjoyed the writings of people. And, it was a lot of people I think that think along the same lines, not maybe exactly the same way, but kind of, everyone's in the same ballpark or same zip code. But I would say social media-wise online, who I enjoy following, I'm a Charlie Weingroff guy. I'm a Patrick Ward guy. I enjoy the guys at iFast, Bill Harpin and Mike Robertson's work. Obviously, Cressy does very good stuff. Locally by me, Patrick Flynn is a really good online presence in terms of kettlebells and stuff along those lines. And, I think I have some average Joe people that, they're really not big out there, not a big following, but they write some really good stuff. So I guess, I think when you log in each day on social media, you just start to, what you're scrolling by and what you're going to look at some point. And then you probably just end up blocking certain things and keep it off your social media altogether. Yeah,
you just have to be an informed consumer and realize that everything you read on Facebook, everything you read on the internet isn't necessarily 100% true. And sometimes you just got to check the facts or, reach out to a trusted resource like Jim or, some of the other guys that you do trust. I, too, am a big Charlie Weingroff fan, so I kind of read into what some of those guys are saying. People that have done some research or have a lot of experience in these areas and just kind of, double check what you're reading and maybe bounce it off the wall to them or throw a question and, who knows, maybe they'll get back to you. And like I said, that's why we do what we do. We have the podcast here. We've got the website. That's why you're such a great resource for all of your athletes, your, individuals that come and work with you. And really, I wanted today's show to be almost a bit of a hodgepodge of some of these different topics. You and I have seen some different debates, even in our Golf Fitness Professionals Forum and things like that. So we're gonna touch on some of that stuff and just kind of delve into a couple other tidbits of information. But one of the ones that kind of sparked our communicating back and forth about getting on the show was the whole speed ladder debate. And I'm sure most people out there listening to the podcast here have seen speed ladder and agility drills and things like that. And so just recently, about 2 weeks ago, in our gym, Elevator Performance in St. Louis, we had a couple hockey players in there, and there was just kind of a debate amongst everybody talking about the speed ladder and doing agility drills, and does it really make you faster, and does it make you more powerful and quicker for your sport? So, I threw it out on Facebook and just kind of wanted to get some feedback and got some great feedback from some individuals. What's your take initially on the idea of the speed ladder, what it's good for, what it's maybe not great for, does it make you faster, and how does it relate to sport?
Okay. I think it's a great tool to have. There's a reason it's been around for so long. We're talking about social media. All this stuff that we use, I think, can get overblown and misguided, misused through the videos and stuff that we're seeing from people on social media. So the latter stuff, I think it's coming out. You're seeing these pro guys, NFL combine guys, doing these 20 to 30 second obstacle courses with the whole variety of things that looks cool, and people associate that with that's training, that's what they're supposed to be doing, when it's actually just a cool YouTube clip. Not saying it's not impressive, it is, but is this something that you're going to do rep after rep of, or say this is, this is what's going to get you to the next level? That's where I'll probably disagree with a lot of people, or the people that do think it is okay. Ladders, for me, it just depends on who you're working with. I think it's very good for the young training age, 1 to 3 years, the youth, the kids. It's a great thing to implement into your warm-up. Gets your brain going. It makes you think. It makes you react a little bit. I think it's a great tool to use when you collect data. You watch someone do some ladder drills, and you just kind of see how they move for the day. You can just kind of see some rhythms and stuff. For older people, it's, I might mix in the warm-up for 2-3 minutes. I'm trying to add something creative to it to make them think. It's one of those things, once you get a ladder pattern down, what is it? It's just steps. It's not really forcing you to think too much, but, it can add a little bit to the warm-up and get you going. So, I think it's a great tool. I think it's how it's implemented. I think it depends on who you're using it with and, why. I don't think it should be a full session. I don't think you should sign up with somebody for a 60-minute agility ladder, which is, I think you're seeing, popping up sometimes now.
Yeah, we work with a lot of kids in our facility, and, we've had parents say, we really went to work on the fast foot stuff, the speed ladder, the agility stuff. And sometimes it's hard to explain that, that's not necessarily what they need at this level. Or a full, like you said, a full 60-minute session to do some stuff to get their feet working. I really like the idea of utilizing it, to just train different patterns as far as, starting with your non-dominant side versus dominant side, that kind of stuff. Just get them moving and feeling different things. And even with the adults and, people maybe of a little bit of a higher training level, it's funny because sometimes you'll throw something like that in and they're not used to it. But it just kind of wakes things up from my perspective. And really, since this debate's been going on, I've actually used the ladder a little bit more than I ever have, just to try some of these things. And it was kind of cool with a young hockey group that we had the other night, just to do some of that non-dominant stuff, just to get them loose and get them warmed up. But sometimes it's more the fundamental movement patterns, body weight stuff, strengthening, just to kind of create some stability that seems to be a little more needed from some of that market. But I do agree that, every tool can be good, can be bad. It's just how it's implemented and, what you do with it. So I'm glad that you kind of brought a little light onto that debate. And hopefully, people don't think, we just got to throw that in the trash. But at the same time, don't think that the speed ladder is the end-all, be-all to, good footwork in your golf swing or being faster on the field or that type of stuff.
Exactly. And like I said, if you want to mix in for a little bit of fun or competition, obviously I'm all for that too. Like I said, let's just not go overboard. And, I still can't believe it's probably been a topic for 4 or 5 months now, whether the latter is good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's just like everything. Once a topic starts and starts to get thrown around, everybody wants to chime in a little bit here and there. And it's entertaining. And, usually it's all in good fun and nothing harmful is said amongst each other, but I also like the idea of getting everybody's point of views, because really, just this debate kind of enlightened me on a couple different things to try and maybe implement that, we hardly ever used it at all. And now, we just threw something in new for the kids and they enjoyed it. So you can find something good in every tool. I did want to jump in and talk to you. Like I said, this episode is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge of different topics. You mentioned that you're getting married in a few months, and it's time for you to hit the diet pretty hard, hit the gym pretty hard, and in your words, it's time to get shredded. And I think that every guy that's probably listening to this podcast not only wants to improve their fitness level for their golf game, but we all want to look better too. And so I thought it'd be cool to hear, what are some of the strategies that you use when you go into, 2 months before the wedding? Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, I think I'm 10 weeks. I'm 10 weeks to go.
Okay. So when you have you've got a time period, it's not just kind of I want to look better, I want to lose a little weight. This is, okay, I've got 10 weeks to do as much good work as I can. What are some of the strategies that you use, both diet-wise, and then maybe we'll even get into some of the training stuff?
Okay. So, like I said, I'm now technically closer to my 40s than I am my 30s. I'm 36. So, things start.
I've got you by 1 year. I'm 37.
Yeah. So things start to change a little bit. Metabolism starts to change. You don't have that ability to do certain things anymore without, losing some stuff. So this year I actually dipped into Inside Tracker. That's kind of been my my new study for myself and some athletes. Are you aware of Inside Tracker at all?
No, I'm not.
So Inside Tracker it's blood testing. I got hooked up with this through Carl Val. Basically, this is taking guessing away from your diet. It's basically saying, let's look past the macros. Let's look past the percentages of carbs and protein and fats, and let's take a look inside of you and see what's going on. So, I get a physical once a year, and everything's always a green light. It's always like, oh, you're a trainer, you're in great shape. Come back when you're 45.
Right.
We'll look at you. And I kind of just got to the point. I said, I kind of really do want to know what's going on with me. So I signed up with Inside Tracker. I just went to a local LabCorp and got some blood drawn. And within 72 hours, I got some feedback. And it basically breaks down and gives you 20 to 30 biomarkers, I think, off the top of my head. And it's going to give you stuff they categorize it, whether it's energy and metabolism. They're going to look at glucose, LDL, HDL, triglycerides. It will give you feedback on your bone and muscles. You're going to get your calcium and vitamin D. Strength and endurance. It gives you creatine feedback and testosterone. Gives you inflammation feedback as well. And what it does with that, it puts you in a range. It tells you if you're high. It tells you if you're optimal. It tells you if you're low. And what you need to do to work towards optimal. Whether it's food intake, maybe it's sleep, maybe it's supplementation of some sort. It's not selling you anything. It's not saying take these pills or do this certain thing. It's just telling you here's probably the path that you need to get where you want to go. So it's kind of been pretty interesting for me. Yeah,
that sounds awesome. Yeah. So what kind of feedback did you get, and then what kind of changes are you planning on making?
My vitamin D was pretty low. I figured that out. My vitamin B levels were low. Even my free testosterone wasn't in probably the greatest position. And, I get it. I know my schedule. I get up at 4 o'clock. I go to bed at, I try to go to bed at 9 or 10. And, so I know sleep's a big issue for me. But seeing all this stuff, it just kind of helps me put things into place and say, okay, I know what the issues are. I'm not guessing. And if, I'm going to get where I want to get to, these are the, steps I got to take.
Right.
So.
And so specifically as far as food intake and things like that, what are some of the changes that have you kind of started making the changes, or are you?
Like I said, I made a bunch of the changes. Dairy's pretty limited for me. Gluten, pretty much 6 days of the week is out of the picture. I live off my Vitamix. I basically make 3 or 4 shakes a day and take it with me to work, and that's been basically it. I just kind of plug everything into a Vitamix, and I just try to drink everything down.
What's in a typical shake?
So my morning shake, blackberries is probably the biggest ingredient that I had to add. Top of my head, I can't remember what they're doing for me, but that was probably the biggest addition. Raspberries, ginger, cinnamon.
And is it a protein shake base or?
I had protein. I use BioSteel. That's probably been the other product that I added this year from doing some research and talking with certain people from the area on terms of protein and post recovery workout stuff. So.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about the BioSteel. This sounds awesome. It sounds like it gives you such an in-depth look, and I know that our buddies Allie Gilbert and Michael Manavian, they do that kind of stuff. They do a lot of the blood work, and it's really made a difference in clients that they've worked with. And I've talked to them about just some of the different changes that they've seen in their clients when you really do get down to more of the specifics. It, like you said, it takes out the guesswork. And we talked about, how do you know what information to really follow? Well, this kind of negates that whole problem. It basically says, these are your results. These are the things that are going to make you better. And like you said, they're not selling you anything. That's another big thing you have to be aware of when you're listening to information is, are they trying to sell something based on this info? But it sounds like this is just, very very strict information on exactly what's going on in your body, and to be that informed really gives you some direction. Same way as if you were to go get a physical assessment from somebody and start a strength training program. So what kind of stuff are you doing on the strength side? How do you ramp up in that way?
I just completed or died basically at the end of phase 2 of Pat Davidson's Drago workout. So
I saw some posts on that. Yeah.
Pat has put together this circuit series. It's basically, how far can you push your body? It's pretty basic. There's one workout. You do it 4 times a week. You do it for 4 weeks, 4 weeks straight. I retested, got into phase 2, and it's just a bear. It's nothing in terms of complex. So basically phase 1, 30 seconds on, 30 off. You go 60% of your trap bar deadlift, your bench press, your squat, lat pull down, thruster, I think seated row. It's basically 10 exercises, and you do 3 rounds of it.
Ugh.
And your job is to just keep increasing weight each week. Once you complete, I think it's sets of 15 for all 3 rounds, and the weight goes up.
Wow.
So it was a bear. I mean, I got in the phase 2, and I think phase 2 was 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off, and it was more towards 70%. And it's just, you got to be on point, the very first rep of round 1, and it's kind of just get after it. So been a fun experience. And if you know Pat Davidson, it's he's a nut, and a very intelligent nut, but I asked him for it. I said, hey, just give me something. I want to know what's going on in your head, and I want to see what works. And so that's been my other experiment I've been going with. So
that's awesome. I love doing that. I love. We've got a trainer at our gym. His name's Tony, and he's one of the greatest program designers that I've ever come across. And so most of the time, he'll write up my program, and I love it. First of all, because I don't know what's coming, and he puts in the stuff that I wouldn't want to put in there for myself. But it's great to experiment a little bit. Everything that you do, especially if you're not going to be a PGA professional and play golf for a living, I think you need to change things up. Everything that you do doesn't need to be for your golf game. And to test yourself in different ways, different limits, do it smart, make sure you know what you're doing before you go in. But something like this is very exciting to me. You go into it, 1, 2, 3 phases of a different program with different goals in mind, whether they be physique or strength or power or whatever it might be. But even changing that up, I think, makes you a better athlete as well, because you're getting different movements, different stresses than you normally would on a regular basis.
Exactly. Like I said, I think I've written my own program for, good odds on of 15 to 20 years. So it's just nice to have someone else write it, and, you have to do it. And it's the law. Do what's written. Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to jump to another topic, another one that you and I hold near and dear to our hearts. And I saw one of your pictures that you posted was, I think it was dinner the other night. It was a piece of bacon stuck in a jar of almond butter with a nice frosty IPA sitting right next to it. And before we get into your best tasting and most favorite beers, I want to know, what can you tell the audience? First of all, just we're all golfers on here, and every golfer that I know loves to enjoy a cocktail every now and then. Let's talk about the bad side of the cocktails before we start to talk about the good side. What are the effects that alcohol has on your training and your performance, say in the gym and on the golf course?
Okay. I think it's a little different for everybody. I think what you drink for the certain individual matters. You hear the health effects of having a glass of wine. You hear the health effects of, tequila now. Like tequila is now some type of fat burner, or, some type of positive with that. I just think it's, are you drinking it right before you go to bed, or is it 2 to 3 hours before bed? I just think it's where you're placing this stuff, and obviously how often you're having it is probably my biggest concern. If you're having 1 or 2 drinks, twice a week, I'm not going to scold you. It's just, it's life. It makes you happy. It makes you feel good. It's, you got to live a little bit. And I'm not too picky on it. But like I said, if it's affecting your sleep, if it's affecting your workouts, if it's affecting your training and, you know, how you play, obviously it's something that we're going to have to address.
Yeah, I think it all depends on your goals, what you're looking for. Like for you, if you're looking to get as lean as possible before a big event or something, we're heading to the beach next week, so I've been, you know, hitting the diet pretty hard too. And it's like, okay, I know that the alcohol is not going to do me any good. It's going to reduce how effective I am when I am training. If I'm out trying to play a sport, it's going to reduce my effectiveness there. And then you got to balance it. Okay, are you in a social setting? Is it going to help you enjoy your time, or are you going to be stressing about the fact that you can't have a drink? And I think that has a negative effect too. So you just, you know, kind of have to weigh your options. What's the risk? What's the reward? But you also have to realize that when you're drinking and having some alcohol, it's going to affect the ability for you to burn that fat when you're in the gym. You know, you're going to have to get rid of some of the toxins first before your body can really work as well as possible to get the results that you also want. So I think that's very important to note. All right, now that we got that out of the way, I want to know some of your favorite microbrews, and in particular, I know that you're an IPA guy. So if you have any suggestions for the listeners out there, I think we've got a couple beer drinkers on the line.
All right. Let's say locally for me, I think because it came out right when I was probably 22 or 23. Dogfish is always a favorite for me. Dogfish 90 minutes, great. If you can get your hands on the 120 to Worldwide Stout, those are something to probably just grab and store and, you know, enjoy on a nice holiday. What I do last year actually, after the World Golf Fitness Summit, I got to sneak down to Stone Brewery in San Diego, and that was a phenomenal experience. I've been a fan of their stuff for a few years.
Yeah, they've got some great stuff.
They have some great stuff. I like West Coast IPA. I enjoy, also by me is Victory, and they're probably getting pretty national now. They have a nice beer called a Dirt Wolf, and their biggest one that's probably selling is called a Golden Monkey. I think it's a Belgian triple, but very smooth, very light. So those are probably my norms. If they're out and then, you know, there's nothing for me to try, you'll see me probably sipping on one or two.
Excellent. And I know this is probably a little different than most of the topics we've had on the 18 Strong podcast, but Jim and I were both kind of saying that, you know, if we weren't trainers for a living, although it totally conflicts with the lifestyle, being a bartender in a microbrew or something like that kind of sounds like a pretty cool occupation. And, you know, so I figured we'd throw a little bit of that in too, because I'm sure there's some folks out there that enjoy a quality beverage every now and then.
I think if you research a lot of the legit top coaches, strength coaches out there, a lot of them were bartenders, I think, at some point.
Really?
In their career. I feel like, I'm pretty sure Boyle was throughout his 20s. I bartended probably from the end of college up until I was probably 28 or 29.
Really?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I know. I've heard Mike Boyle talk about loving his beer, and Jason Glass always mentions his wobbly pops, and, you know, we've got quite a few guys that I know on some of the continuing education seminars, there might be a beverage imbibed here and there in the late night hours.
They're all human, you know. It's and that's, I think, the best thing. It's, you know, you see they're realistic, and it's like, come on, this is life.
Yeah, it's important that people know that, you know, the fitness professionals, the professional sports, you know, figures, exactly. We've all got indulgences that we love, but, you know, you just, again, you have to know, first of all, when to draw the line, but you also have to know what are the goals and what are your options. So, all right, Jim, I want to throw a couple last few questions at you that most people get on the 18 Strong podcast.
Okay.
First one is, are you more of a Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore fan?
Ooh, I'm going to get Caddyshack.
I think that's a phenomenal choice. All right. What has you most excited about what's going on with you, your strength training program, and everything you've got going on in these upcoming months?
I just got done a really cool opportunity. I worked a 6-week deal with the Liaoning Flying Leopards of the Chinese Basketball League. So I'm waiting to lock up an opportunity to actually go to China and work with them for a little bit. So that's a project, hopefully for the winter for me, that
Wow.
Hopefully gets set up.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So first, that'll be a first for me to get over there.
Very cool. Where are they located over there? Is it in like Beijing or?
It looks like it's about an hour or two outside of Beijing, north.
Okay, sweet. All right. When you first heard the term 18 strong, what did that term conjure up in your mind?
Strong 18 holes of golf from start to finish. A strong round.
Perfect. Love it. All right.
First thing in my head.
What's that?
That's the first thing.
And you know what? That's pretty much exactly what I thought of when I was coming up with the title. Everybody's had some different takes on it, so I always love to get an idea of what their definition is, what their first impression was when they heard it. Had some pretty unique answers to that one.
What's the worst answer you got?
We'll talk offline. Well, the worst was, and I can say this because he's my buddy, Jim Holdgreave, was when he said 18 strong. What's that? So he obviously didn't realize that he was on the 18 Strong podcast at the time.
Nice.
All right. Before we cut it, Jim, any last pieces of advice for the audience before we take off?
Just do your research on who you listen to. Read more than one article. Find the pros and cons. And like I said, do what makes you happy and just realize, what comes with that. Are you doing something that puts you at risk, and are you doing this stuff that takes care of that to the best of your ability?
Excellent. And then, Jim, where's the best place that the audience can find you or maybe get in touch with you if they have any questions for you?
Sure. Website's www.jimferris.com, or like I said, Facebook is James Ferris, where you can add my fan page, GYM Ferris. So I'm pretty easy to get in contact with, and I will answer 100% of who contacts me. It just might take me a few days.
Awesome. And everybody knows I'll have everything linked up in your show notes page, so they'll be able to find your Facebook page, your website, all that good stuff. And we'll even include some of the links in here of some of the different things you talked about, maybe link up the Drago workout and some of the stuff you're doing there, and of course put in a couple of the beers that you recommended.
100%. No problem.
All right, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
So I kind of feel like that was definitely a guy's episode. We talk about microbrews. We talk about alcohol, both the good and the bad. We talk about sometimes a guy just wants to work out, not necessarily specifically for performance and optimization on the golf course, but sometimes we just want to look good. We're going to the beach. We're getting married. We're doing all this stuff. And, so Jim talked a lot about, some of the different strategies and things that he's doing. And I think it's great to switch it up. Like we talked about, do something different, do something that's outside of your comfort zone, have somebody else write a program for you that maybe you're not used to, or reach out to a fitness professional, go to like last week's podcast episode, go try a yoga class, something like that, learn how to do some kettlebell stuff. Whatever's a little bit out of your wheelhouse, don't be afraid to try new things. Sometimes you'll find something that you love and that really works, and it ties right into the goal of improving your golf game as well as whatever else you're trying to do. So don't be afraid to try some new things, especially for those of you like me that are not going to be professional golfers. So everything that you do in the gym doesn't necessarily have to be reflective of the tee box or the fairway or the putting green. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate you being on the line on the 18 Strong podcast, listening in. Appreciate the feedback and always love the suggestions, questions, comments that I'm getting. So find us on Twitter. Head on over. Don't forget Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. And please, I ask a favor of you. If you enjoy the podcast, could you please pass it along to one of your friends? Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Do whatever. Send an email to somebody. But we really want to get the word of the 18 Strong podcast out. I promise to continue to give you great information. And we've got a lot of big things coming up that I'm very excited about. So please pass on the word. I appreciate it. And we will talk to you soon. Train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.